Go through the Algebra 1 CUA1 review, showing all of our steps and discussing calculator strategies as well. This is question number 1. Question number 1, you have two sets of parentheses. There is no number in front of either set of parentheses, no variable. So we've talked about what we do when that happens is we put a 1 there. And if you'll remember, if you have a 1 in front of anything, it means to multiply everything in the parentheses by 1. Well, if you multiply by 1, it has no effect. So really, you don't need the parentheses. This 1 times 4SF is still 4SF. So as long as you have no numbers, no negative signs, you're fine. You don't need to drop the parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and write it down below. 1SF minus 2FP plus 3SP, and then plus 4SF plus 5FP minus 6SP. Your next job is to combine like terms. Combining like terms means find things that have the same variable and exponent, or constants that have no variable or exponent. So the very first thing I see is a 1SF. So I'm going to scan the rest of the problem and see if I have any SF combinations. And I do. About halfway down, I have a positive 4SF. So I'm going to add 1SF plus positive 4SF. Guys, when you're adding, you're really only adding the coefficients. Remember, the coefficients are the numbers at the beginning of your variable term. So 5, and then you just bring down your SF. And if you look, all of my answer choices begin with 5SF. Now I'm ready to move on to the second type of term. I just go to the next thing I see. I'm going to draw a circle around it. So I have a negative 2FP. And I also have down at the end a 5FP. So I'm going to write my FP's together. There's negative 2, there's 5. We always add, and I get 3FP. The last thing I'm going to go pick up is my SP's. I have 3 of them there, and I have negative 6 of them here. So I have 3SP, negative 6SP, and I'm adding, and I'm going to remind you again, we're adding the numbers. You are not going to type S's and P's in your calculator. We're going to type in 3 plus negative 6, and I'm going to get negative 3. And then I bring down the SP. Now, if you look, there's a minus in front of this guy, or a negative, so that becomes a minus when you connect it together. There is nothing in between these two guys right here. So if you don't have anything to connect your terms, you put a plus there. So I have 5SP, then I have plus 3FP, which means A is out, C is out. And then I have a minus 3SP, which means that B is now also out. D is the only one that has all 3 of those terms correct. Number 2. This one also has parentheses. The difference is this time one of them is a negative. So we are going to have to do some distribution. I'm going to go ahead and set us up where we can do that successfully. I'm going to be multiplying negative 1 times 6x and negative 1 times positive 3. So I'm going to start at the left side of the problem, and I'm going to bring down everything that I can. Remember, there is no number out here in front of that first set of parentheses, so I don't really have to distribute anything. It's like having a 1 out there. So I'm copying everything up until I get to that minus that has to be distributed. Now, negative 1 times 6x is negative 6x because you multiplied the negative 1 times positive 6. Negative 1 times positive 3 is negative 3. Now that my parentheses are gone, I'm ready to start combining like terms. So I have some x squareds, and I have negative 6 more of those. I'm going to write them up and down so that it's really easy for me to see the numbers I need to type into my calculator. Remember, we're always adding our like terms. So I'm going to add a 2 plus -6, and I'll get -4x squared. Then I go to my next term, change shapes or colors or both. I have some x's. Notice how I picked up this minus sign in the front as well. I picked up that plus sign. You always pick up the plus or minus in front of a term. That tells you what sign it will be when you are doing your addition and subtraction. So I have 4x and I have -6x, and I am adding them, okay? So again, 4 plus -6. And I'm going to get -2, I'm doing a video, x, okay? The last thing I have, let's do a different color, is I have a 9 and a -3. So I have +9 plus -3, and I'm getting +6. Since there's nothing between the -2x and the 6, I'm just going to put a plus there. And when I go look at my answer choices, I want you to realize that you could have knocked out A and D both because they had no x squareds in them after you combine like terms. And then C is the right answer because B has the wrong number at the end. Question number 3. How do you know that y is a function of x? Remember, no repeat x's, okay? When I look at letter A, all of those -13s repeated the first one. When I look at B, I have 2 zeros. You can't do that. When I look at C, it looks good. Notice, guys, I'm not even looking at the y row. I don't care about the y's. All I care about is the x's. Do the x's work? This D has 2 -1s. That's not allowed. C is your correct answer. Number 4 is one that I would maybe wait and do towards the end. Anything involving distribution and combining you might want to do at the end because they take a little longer. So this has 4 distribution problems that all start the same way. They all start with a 9 outside the parentheses, but they have different stuff on the inside of the parentheses. So you're going to do 8 multiplication problems because each one of these individual answer choices is 2 multiplication problems. So like for letter A, I'm going to do 9 times 7, and I'm going to do 9 times -25x. Well, 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times -25x is -225x. That right there is a problem because it's not supposed to be a negative, it's a positive. Go to my next one. 9 times 7, which we already know is 63. And then I have 9 times +25x, which is in fact 225x. So I do have a 63 plus 225x. So that looks to be the correct answer, but before you fall in love with an answer, go look at the rest of the answer options. Letter B is 9 times -7. Well, that's -63, so I can stop. And D is the same way. 9 times -7 is -63, so I can stop. C and D are out because of the -63. A is out because of the -225x. B is the correct answer. Okay, number 5 is probably the most difficult question, the most time-consuming, because it has all these letters in here, and you have 4 problems that you have to do. I'm going to go through and try to do this in an organized fashion. I'm going to circle all the stuff. You know what? I'm going to do all of them the same way. So I'm going to circle what's on the outside because that's my first multiplier. And then on the inside, each one of these sets of parentheses has 3 different things you have to multiply together. So it's a lot of work, okay? This is why I would save this one to the very end. All right, so I'm going to start with the first one. I am going to multiply 3m times each one of those guys, okay? 3m times 3 MP. I want you to look at this, okay? What you're really multiplying is 3 times 3, which is 9, and then you have MP. Well, we hopefully all know that an M and an M, anytime you have two of them, we actually call that M squared. So that is 9M squared. Then I'm going to move on to the 3M times negative 18P. Well, we're really multiplying 3 times negative 18, which is negative 54. And then you have an M and a P. And we're done with that one, okay? And then I have 3M times 2, which really you're multiplying 3 times 2, which is 6, and then you have an M, okay? Now, that whole thing would be 9M squared minus 54MP plus 6M does not match in any way, okay? So I'm going to move on down, and I'm going to go to, I'm actually going to skip all the way to the last one. No, I'll do B. I'm going to do 9P. I'm not going to do all of these. I'm going to do B, which is a wrong answer, and then I'm going to show you D, which is a good answer. So I have 9P times M this time. Well, there's nothing you can do with any of those because you don't have two numbers and you have a letter and a letter. They don't match, so you have no exponents. Now, I do want to point out to you that even though it says PM, PM is the same thing as MP, so it's fine. You don't really have to flip it around. Typically, it's going to be listed in alphabetical order. So that one's good. 9 times negative 2P. I'm sorry, 9P times negative 2P. Okay, well, what are we multiplying together this time? This time we're doing 9 times negative 2, which is negative 18. And then I have P times P, which if you have two P's, isn't that the same thing as P squared? So negative 18P squared. So far, B looks good. 9MP or PM, negative 18P squared. So we just got to get over our last hurdle, which is 9P times 6P. Well, now is where we're going to have a problem. Because when I multiply 9 times 6, I'm going to get 54. And I also have a P and a P, which is 54P squared, which I should then go and combine with the negative 18P squared. So that's not going to work because where's my 6P? So actually D is the correct answer, and I'm going to run through this one. Guys, there's an expression. I told one of my classes this today. How do you eat an elephant? And the answer is 1 bite at a time. This problem looks kind of like an elephant, but if you think about it as one little multiplication problem at a time, it's not so intimidating. So I have 3P times 3M. That's the first thing I see right here, okay? So 3 times 3 is 9. P times M or M times P, you can't do anything with that, so you just add it after your 9. So 9MP or PM. Okay, now I'm going to go to 3P times negative 6P. So 3P times negative 6P. I'm getting 3 times negative 6, which is negative 18. And then I have those two P's, right? Well, isn't that the same thing as P squared? The last thing I'm going to multiply, I sure do hope this works because we're out of answers. I've got a 3P times 2. And really you're multiplying 3 times, oops, that's not what I meant to do, sorry. Come on, highlighter. 3 times 2. Well, 3 times 2 is 6, and you just have the 1P. So look at all of your answer. I have a 9MP, check. Negative 18P squared, check. 6P, check. Number 6 is a calculator question. what they are telling you is we are going to replace the x, I should do this with a highlighter, with an 11. If you have a calculator, the TI Inspired, the easiest way to do this is to type exactly what you see on the other side of the equal sign and then do Control equals and type in x equals 11 because that's what we replaced the x with, and you will get your answer. However, if you don't have a TI Inspired calculator when you're doing this, the other thing you can do is you can say, okay, I have a 5 and I have something that I'm going to put in place of x. I'll come back and get that in just a second. So you see what I did here is I left some parentheses where the x used to be, and I'm going to go put an 11 in there. And you could type that into your calculator, or you could work it out by hand. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses. Multiply. What is that? Oh, sorry. 10, carry 1, 11, carry 1, 610, plus 16, and I'm going to get 626. But honestly, calculator. Okay, I got 2 sets of parentheses. Everybody see them? There's one, there's one. But look what's in the middle. Yay. No number in the front, no number in the front. You get to ignore them. Just bring it down. And all we have to do is combine like terms. So I'm going to start with the first thing I see, which is a 10. That's called a constant. I'm going to go find my other constant, negative 12. I'm going to add them. I'm going to get negative 2. When I go look at my answer choices, one of them doesn't have a negative 2. If you look, A is automatically out because it's a positive 2. Now I'm going to keep going. The next thing I see is a negative 4x. If I scan the problem, I don't want to pick x squared or x squared, but I could do this positive 2x. So I have negative 4x, positive 2x, add them together, and I get negative 2x. Okay, now I've eliminated B because it has a positive 2x, and I've eliminated D because it has a positive 2x. So I think the answer is C, but I'm going to go ahead and finish the problem. So now I have a 7x squared and a negative 5x squared. Well, 7x squared, negative 5x squared, remember we always add, I'm getting positive 2x squared, and sure enough, that's what C has. C is the correct answer. Number 8, if you look at the question itself, all it tells you is m of x is graphed. We want to know what m of 2 is. Guys, we are replacing x with 2. X is 2. So if x is 2 and we're trying to figure out something on the graph, we must be figuring out the y. So some of you are struggling with this. This is what I want you to do. I want you to be able to go and find x is 2, follow it down or up until it hits the picture, which it hits right here, and figure out what the point is. The ordered pair where that hits is at 2, negative 4. Therefore, the answer is negative 4. But some of you are struggling with this, so maybe this will help. I'm telling you now that we know what x is. X is 2. So basically, well, I'll go ahead and write this. You're looking for what ordered pair is in the picture when x is 2. So look at it this way. If you were to try to graph 2, negative 8, 2, negative 4, 2, negative 12, 2, 7, because all of those have an x value of 2. I'm going to go graph those real quick. So 2, negative 8 is all the way down here. Do you see that that is not on the picture? This was B. Letter C, 2, negative 12 is somewhere down here off the picture. And then letter D, 2, 7 is way up here. So none of those other points are touching the parabola, which is that curved shape in the picture. So the answer has to be B. Okay, number 9, when in doubt, expand it out. The first thing I'm told is there's something outside the parentheses that is making everything in the parentheses be repeated. So I have a to the 4th, b squared, c, and I'm going to do that twice. A to the 4th, b squared, c. Now I'm ready to expand. Now that I'm ready, or I'm done with the outside exponents, I'm ready to expand. A to the 4th means literally 4 a's in a multiplication string. B to the 2nd, c. A to the 4th, b to the 2nd, c. So when I look at that, I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 a's. A to the 8th. I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 b's, b to the 4th, and I end up with 2 c's. And so my answer is C. A to the 8th, b to the 4th, c squared. A sequence. Look at this. These are number lists, right? Y'all see how these are lists of numbers? So this ought to be a dead giveaway that I can't tell you what my list of numbers is unless I know where it starts. So F1 means this is where it starts. The first term. F for first, 1 for first, has to be 24, which means C and D are both out. Then you go look at the expression. All of the expressions are going to look like that, and then afterwards they're going to have a plus or a minus. That is telling you how we're going to skip count. So I now know we're going to start with 24, and I'm going to subtract 5 to get my second term 19, subtract 5 to get my third term 14, subtract 5 to get my last term 9. Okay. Number 11, when you see the term directly proportional, you ought to be thinking big H. I got X's, I got Y's. 5.5 for X goes with 110 for Y. When X is 12, put that on the X row. What is my Y? Then you cross multiply and you divide. I believe when you multiply 110 times 12, you get 1320. And then when you divide that by 5.5, you get your answer, which should be 240. Okay, this is another calculator problem, so you're going to type it into the calculator. Or you could do this, but I personally think it's best with the yellow calculators to do it this way. That is my preference, but it's on you. You decide. I'm getting negative 45. Okay, here's another expanding problem. So I see all I have is a bunch of X's and Y's, and it's all multiplying. So I'm going to go do 1, 2, 3, 4 X's, 1, 2, 3 Y's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 X's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Y's. So when I count up all my X's, there's 4, there's 9 more, I'm getting 13 of them. So X to the 13th power, okay? When I count up all my Y's, there's 3, there's 8 more, I'm getting 11. So Y to the 11th power. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, look at what the question is asking you. A equals, B equals, let me do that in different colors. A equals, struggle is real. A equals, B equals. They want you to solve it, and we did, but now all I want you to do is go tell me what are the exponents for those two variables. Well, we figured out that the exponent for X was supposed to be 13. Don't type X to the 13th on there. It's going to get counted wrong. Y is to the 11th power. Okay. 3 pictures that are good functions should have been K, G, and L. When you look at the others, there are places, look, that entire line is on the same vertical line. Same vertical line, not allowed. Same vertical line, not allowed to touch 2 points at the same time. No repeat x's. So the answers were K, G, and L. Last distribution problem, and then I'm not going to do the rest of the functions. I got one more distribution problem. 2 is on the outside. I've got -9 and -1. 2 times -9 is, or times -9x is -18x. 2 times, what is that, a -1? Is -2. So we're looking for -18x minus 2. A is your answer. Okay, and we did the others in class, so I'm going to stop there because you've practiced them every